All right, let's jump right into today's explainer. We are pulling back the curtain on a high-stakes, completely hidden world that literally surrounds you every single day. We're talking about the invisible and sometimes downright terrifying science of domestic water disasters. To do this, we're diving into some incredibly fascinating data and field protocols from Horizon Water Damage Restoration. They're based in Midlothian, Virginia, and they basically handle the front lines of residential flooding. The actual science behind how a house breaks down, and more importantly, how it gets put back together, is absolutely mind-blowing.
10 gallons a minute. Just picture that for a second. 10. That's the exact amount of water a single burst-aging supply line dumps into a home. Imagine taking 10 full milk jugs of water and just pouring them out onto your living room floor every single minute. It sets a pretty urgent tone, right? We're not talking about a slow, annoying drip here. This is a sudden, catastrophic deluge right inside your walls.
Which leads us to a frankly terrifying question. What actually happens when your house floods at 2 a.m.? You're fast asleep, the house is completely quiet, and suddenly, boom, that supply line just lets go. For homes in older 1980s and 1990s subdivisions, the ones really common in Midlothian and the surrounding areas, this is a very real, very sudden nightmare. The plumbing in those houses has simply reached the end of its natural lifespan. Water heaters corrode, washing machine hoses wear out, and the scary part is, they don't give you a warning, they just fail in the dark.
Now, you might be thinking the main cause of this kind of damage is the weather, right? The visible threat. Midlothian gets around 44 inches of annual rainfall, plus those super intense summer thunderstorms. But the real danger? It's the invisible threat. It's the aging infrastructure we just talked about, combined with expanding clay-heavy soils. You see, the dense clay soil that defines that region doesn't just naturally drain water away. It acts like a giant sponge. It absorbs it.
And when that clay soil absorbs water, it swells up, creating a hidden physics phenomenon known as hydrostatic pressure. The soil literally pushes against your foundation walls with immense, unrelenting force. In neighborhoods near the Swift Creek and Falling Creek watersheds, this pressure just squeezes water right through microscopic cracks and joints in basements and crawl spaces. Your house is basically locked in a wrestling match with the earth around it, and when the earth wins, the water starts pouring in.
Section 1. The hidden cost of time. And believe me, the clock is ticking.
Think about the timeline of a disaster like this. At minute 1, water is already spreading rapidly across your flooring and wicking straight up into the drywall. By hour 24, actual structural damage begins. Materials start to break down and swell up. And by hour 48 to 72, that's when mold spores start germinating in that damp environment. The clock starts ticking the absolute second a pipe bursts or a sump pump fails. This is exactly why a rapid emergency response is so critical. Horizon, for instance, aims for a 60-minute dispatch window with their truck-mounted extractors because physically stopping that water in the first hour is literally the only way to prevent massive secondary damage.
Okay, let's dive into Section 2, the science of drying. And spoiler alert, we're going way beyond the standard box fan.
Because here's the thing. True restoration is not just pointing a fan at a puddle and crossing your fingers. If you're dealing with a climate like Virginia's, where summer humidity regularly blasts past 70%, just opening a window or setting up a fan is going to do absolutely nothing for you. The ambient air is already totally saturated with moisture. You need absolute clinical scientific precision to actually dry out soaked building materials. Enter psychrometrics. It sounds complicated, but it's basically the science of moisture physics. It's the study of how different building materials absorb and release water vapor. Certified restoration technicians aren't just moving air around an empty room. They are running complex psychrometric calculations. They're constantly measuring temperature, humidity, and something called grain depression to figure out the exact vapor pressure differential needed to literally pull trapped moisture out from deep inside your walls and floors. To achieve that perfect vapor pressure differential, crews bring in some seriously high-tech combat tools. We're talking commercial air movers and low-grain refrigerant dehumidifiers that push through the job regardless of what the weather's doing outside. But honestly, my absolute favorite piece of tech in their arsenal is the Fluor Thermal Imaging Camera. Water trapped inside a wall cools the surface down through evaporation. The Fluor camera actually detects this evaporative cooling, which allows technicians to find hidden, invisible water pooled inside ceiling cavities without having to just smash through your drywall with a hammer to look for it. It's completely non-destructive investigation. Now, what's really interesting about this is how the actual source of the water completely dictates the battle plan. In this industry, water damage is broken down in 3 categories. Category 1 is your clean water, think a burst supply line. Category 2 is gray water, like maybe a dishwasher overflows. But Category 3, that is black water.
We're talking sewage backups or raw floodwaters. Category 3 water is highly contaminated, and it requires strict antimicrobial treatments, specialized hazard containment, and often the complete disposal of any porous materials just to protect a family's health.
Which brings us to Section 3, the three-phase battle. This is the standardized, certified process used to save a waterlogged home from ruin. This battle happens in 3 pretty seamless steps. Step 1 is emergency mitigation, getting there fast and firing up those truck-mounted pumps to extract thousands of gallons of standing water. Step 2 is structural drying and monitoring. That's when they deploy the low-grain dehumidifiers and visit daily to take moisture readings and adjust all that math we talked about. Finally, Step 3 is restoration and reconstruction. Once the strict dry standard is actually met, it's time to replace the drywall, match the paint, and put the house back together exactly as it was.
Now you might be wondering, how long does this whole ordeal take? Realistically, the timeline for proper structural drying is 3 to 5 days. It is so tempting for homeowners to want to rush this, to just turn all those noisy machines off after a day because things kind of look dry on the surface. But rushing the process is a massive, massive mistake. It leaves hidden moisture buried deep in the structural framing, which inevitably leads to wood rot, swollen baseboards, and hidden mold colonies down the road. You have to let the process work.
Section 4. Navigating the aftermath, and more importantly, protecting your home.
So, let's talk actionable takeaways. What can you do to prevent this? First, go replace your washing machine hoses every 5 years, and definitely upgrade to the steel-braided ones. Clean your gutters twice a year to keep water actively flowing away from your foundation. Keep a close eye on your water bills for unexplained spikes. That's a huge tell for hidden leaks. And install water detection alarms near your sump pumps and water heaters. And here is the so what of all this. Most homeowners insurance will gladly cover sudden, accidental damage like a burst pipe, but they will absolutely reject claims for gradual damage caused by neglected maintenance. You really have to stay ahead of it. Which leads us to one final, slightly provocative question. Right now, outside your walls, the earth might be shifting. The soil might be wet and expanding. So ask yourself, is your home secretly building hydrostatic pressure right now? Is there an aging supply line ticking away in the dark? The invisible science of water damage literally never sleeps. So take those preventative steps today and make sure your home stays safe, dry, and standing strong.